I really like this post here by Aunt Lynn, and it's just talking about the 4th of July veterans, the Declaration of Independence signers. Have you ever wondered what happened to the 56 men who signed the Declaration of Independence? 5 signers were captured by the British as traitors and tortured before they died. 12 of the signers of the Declaration of Independence had their homes ransacked and burned. 2 lost their sons serving in the Revolutionary Army. Another had 2 sons captured. 9 of the 56 fought and died from wounds or hardships of the Revolutionary War. They signed and they pledged their lives, their fortunes, and their sacred honor. They signed and pledged their lives, their fortunes, and their sacred honor. What kind of men were they? 24 were lawyers and jurists. 11 were merchants, 9 were farmers and large plantation owners, men of means, well educated, but they signed the Declaration of Independence knowing full well that the penalty would be death if they were captured. Carter Braxton of Virginia, a wealthy planter and trader, saw his ships swept from the seas by the British Navy. He sold his home and properties to pay his debts, and he died in rags. Thomas McKean was so hounded by the British that he was forced to move his family almost constantly. He served in the Congress without pay, and his family was kept in hiding. His possessions were taken from him, and poverty was his reward. Vandals or soldiers looted the properties of Dillery, Hall, Clymer, Walton, Gwinnett, Hayward, Rutledge, and Middleton. At the battles of Yorktown, Thomas Nelson Jr. noted that the British General Cornwallis had taken over the Nelson home for his headquarters. He quietly urged General George Washington to open fire. The home was destroyed and Nelson died bankrupt. Francis Lewis had his home and properties destroyed. The enemy jailed his wife and she died within a few months. John Hart was driven from his wife's bedside as she was dying. Their 13 children fled for their lives. His fields and his grist mill were laid to waste. For more than a year he lived in forests and caves, returning home to find his wife dead and his children vanished. So take a few minutes while enjoying your 4th of July holiday and silently thank these patriots. It's not much to ask for the price that they paid. When you say the name of the dead to the earth, they are still alive. So by saying Carter Braxton, by saying Thomas McKean, while saying Dillery, Hall, Clymer, Walton, Gwinnett, Hayward, Rutledge, and Middleton, Thomas Nelson Jr., Francis Lewis, and John Hart. John Hart's case is even more remarkable. I want to actually follow up on some of these people because John Hart, his wife is going to get killed, and then his 13 children had to flee for their lives. Did they live? What happened to John Hart, the signer of the Declaration? Let's see if we can find anything out. So John Hart, Declaration of Independence. Because that would be crazy. You come under attack, you have 13 children, and they all go running, and you never find them again. You would think that one of them would have survived. So it says that he signed the Declaration of Independence on August 2nd, 1776. He was elected to the New Jersey General Assembly after signing the Declaration and became its Speaker. He was a delegate to the Second Continental Congress. June 1776, he was elected as one of the 5 New Jersey delegates to the Second Continental Congress. Upon arriving in Philadelphia, Hart strongly supported the idea of declaring independence from Great Britain. Hart was the 13th delegate to sign the Declaration of Independence. After signing the Declaration, Hart returned to New Jersey to serve as Speaker of the newly formed New Jersey General Assembly. Hart faced significant challenges during the war, including British troops wreaking havoc on his farm and forcing him into hiding. Despite the hardships, Hart remained committed to the cause of American independence and continued to serve in public office. John Hart's dedication to the cause of American independence is remembered. He's recognized as one of the founding fathers who signed the Declaration of Independence according to the National Park Service. So John Hart I guess you're only kind of seeing the middle of the screen. There's like a younger picture of him, and he's got like longer hair. He's got long hair, like a hippie, like a damned hippie. But he's also wearing those, like a nice coat. He died several years before the end of the Revolutionary War while still active in patriotic efforts. Wow, he died in New Jersey, Hunterdon County. So he didn't just come back to an empty home, his wife dead and his 13 children scattered all about. But he's going to die himself. So let's see what we can find out. The couple had 13 children. Deborah Scudder was the wife. 13 children were Sarah, Jesse, Martha, Nathaniel, John, Susanna, Mary, Abigail, Edward, and Scudder, an infant daughter, Daniel, and Deborah. His wife died October 28, 1776. In 1747, he donated a piece of land in his front meadow to local Baptists who had been seeking a place to hold a church. The location was known for some time thereafter as the Hopewell Old School Baptist Meeting House. I want to find out about the children. I want to find out how come the children were all gone, and then did we ever find them? Did they ever, reappear? There's a John Hart monument at the Old School Baptist Meeting House, so that's awesome. December 1776, the British advanced into New Jersey, reached Hunterdon County, a marked man because of his status as Speaker of the Assembly. Hart was obliged to escape and hide for a short time in the nearby Sourland Mountains. His farm was raided by British and Hessian troops who damaged but not to destroy the property. The Continental's capture of Trenton on December 26 allowed Hart to return home. Prior to the Battle of Monmouth, Hart invited General George Washington and the Continental Army to make camp on his farm, and his offer was accepted. So that's exciting. He was pivotal in the battles from June 22nd to 24, 1778. 12,000 men occupied his fields, and on at least one occasion, Washington dined with Hart. On November 7th, 1778, Hart returned to Hopewell from the Assembly in Trenton. 2 days later, he indicated he was too ill with gravel, kidney stones to return. He continued to suffer from the painful affliction for more than 6 months until his death on May 11th, 1779, at age 65. He is buried at the Old School Baptist Meeting House, to which he donated land. It doesn't say what happened to his children. Maybe we could just ask, what? Should we ask Grok? Let's ask Grok. So we're going to just type in John Hart, a signer of the Declaration of Independence, had 13 children. What happened to them? Historical records provide limited but significant details about their fates after Hart's death in 1779. Below is a summary based on available information. John Hart died of kidney stones at age 65 after a prolonged illness. His wife Deborah had predeceased him in 1776. During the Revolutionary War, Hart's 400-acre farm was plundered by Hessian troops, and he was forced to flee from British forces, leaving his family vulnerable. Posts on X and historical accounts indicate that Hart returned home to find his wife dead and his children scattered or placed with neighbors, suggesting significant disruption to the family unit due to war and absence. Specific details about the individual lives of all 13 children post-1779 are sparse in historical records, as most accounts focus on Hart's contributions rather than his family's outcomes. However, some key points emerge. Relocation and dispersal. Several sources note that Hart's children fled in all directions for their lives during the British pursuit of their father, indicating they sought safety amid the war's chaos. After Hart's death, it's documented that his sons later moved from Hopewell, while his daughters married men from the surrounding area. This suggests that the sons sought opportunities elsewhere, possibly due to the destruction of the family estate, while the daughters remained in the Hopewell region, integrating into local families through marriage. So they lived. A handful of them lived. That's good, right? The Hart name. Let's see. The Hart name lives on. Hart died owing money. Most of his property was sold for a pittance, leaving little inheritance for his children. This financial strain likely influenced their post-war lives, pushing them to rely on community support or new opportunities. The children were likely taken in by neighbors or local families. Placed with neighbors, this aligns with the tight-knit nature of colonial communities where extended family or neighbors often supported orphaned or displaced children. Specific details, it says they provide little granular detail, but we can infer general outcomes based on the area's social patterns. So that doesn't say much at all. The infant daughter, noted as deceased, likely died young before Hart's death, as was common in an era with high infant mortality rates. So that sucks. The son's location from Hopewell suggests they may have sought new land or opportunities elsewhere. They're not really saying much. They're just kind of guessing what happened to Sarah, Martha, Susanna, Mary, Abigail, Deborah, Jesse, Nathaniel, John, Edward, Scudder, and Daniel. Legacy and lack of detailed records. Let's see. Some people say he died of a broken heart. His children scattered like ash. So we know that the infant had died, and the wife had died, and he died. But then there's 12 other children. We don't know for sure what had happened to them. But we know that some of them moved on, and then others had married. So, yeah, that's a hell of a sacrifice. They wanted us to be a free country. We didn't have to listen to the Court of Chancery anymore. Why would we listen to the Court of Chancery today when they didn't even listen to the Court of Chancery back then?